Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the regular meeting of council for the Corporation of the Municipality of Central Elgin, Monday, May 8th at 7:10. If I could ask those in the chamber, first of all, I welcome those that are joining online and in the chamber. If I could ask those in the chamber to stand for the national anthem, please. The municipality of Central Elgin acknowledges that it is located on the land of the McKee Treaty that was signed by the Wyandot and the Anishinaabe nations, including ancestors of Chippewas of the Thames First Nation. It is also the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Attawandaronk, and Mississauga Nation. These First Nations continue to provide ongoing stewardship of the land and waters in the municipality of Central Elgin. Council, can I ask if anyone has a disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sloan. Hopefully for the last time on this issue. We have the budget and need to approve. And so I need to declare interest on Schedule B, which is the general government staff salaries.
Thank you, Councillor Halpin. And I believe I believe Mr. Graves has been split so that the vote is understood. Councillor Halpin, comments, please.
Thank you, through you. My understanding when I looked at it is that right now the motion reads that we approve schedules A, B, C, and D. So when we get there, I will just ask that we divide it as we did for the other meetings.
Okay, and I'll do the same. Mr. Graves? Okay, Councillor Halpin? Good, thank you. Adoption of the minutes from previous meetings. If I could get a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Noble, Councillor Bachman.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Bachman, that the minutes of the special meeting of council dated April 11th, 2023 and April 13th, 2023, and regular meeting of council dated April 24th, 2023 be adopted.
Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sloan. I believe we may need an amendment to them. I did notice that the minutes state that there was a declaration of pecuniary interest on your part for the April 13th meeting that I listened back through and I don't believe occurred.
Will that be rectified today with the pecuniary interest in the vote? Mr. Graves, please.
Thank you, Worship. With that, it's noted and the minutes will be amended appropriately.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to delegations. Staff Council Relations, findings from the report from Tim Dobbie, Consultant. Mr. Dobbie, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Pleasure to be here tonight on such a beautiful day. I wanted to remind you of the proposal that I put in to council, and council passed that project, but the proposal was to have me interview each member of the senior team here in Central Elgin and each member of council. And those interviews were, we found everybody to be very open and direct with their comments. We thought we got good information from people. And normally what we do then, we go into a workshop, and a workshop is getting up all of council and all of the senior team together, talking about the principles of a good staff council relationship. And then and then helping council and senior staff make sure that their policy and procedures in regarding that relationship are functioning in a way that is to the betterment of the community. And it's something that I personally believe, after 34 years of working in one community and 16 years of working in approximately 65 communities in Ontario, I still maintain that the municipalities that are run the best in this province, and I assume it's the same everywhere in Canada, but I don't know that. But in this province, the better the relationship is between council and the senior team, the better the municipality will be run. And that if that's a goal that you have, you will never hear that from the community out there. You won't hear that, oh, you know, everything's great at Central Elgin, but you will hear, and because I know this because we've experienced it, that people will say, well, the municipality seems to be run either well or okay or something like that. That's the best you will ever do. But without that relationship, without everybody understanding what the responsibility of council is and the responsibility of the senior team, and being physically in the positions to work together, and without good and hard and fast rules of how to treat each other, you can get into trouble. You can get into situations where you start arguing about things that really aren't the thing that is important to the people out there. So I was approached by you, Mr. Mayor, and that's when I learned that in Central Elgin at the last election, there were 7 new members of council elected to be on council. And I've had some experience in dealing with that. I had 1 year in my own municipality. I wasn't actually the city manager. A fellow by the name of Michael Fenn was, and we had 4 of our 7 were new. And so Michael Fenn said to me, I'd like you to take on this project and see what you can do to bring the groups together. I've also had other municipalities, 2 in Niagara. One had 6 new council members of 7, another one had 5. And Lorianne and I are currently working here with 7 new members of council, and also Elliott Lake, which has 5 new of 6. It's a long story why they don't have 7. They should have 7, but their mayor's having a problem. So, so to me, so what's it mean when the municipality out there doesn't vote for incumbents, but votes in your case for an entire new set of council? What does that mean? What's the message that you're getting? The message to me is they're not happy. Something's wrong. It is really hard. All of the literature that I've ever read about running for council, and I was reading it not thinking I would run for council, because I think once you're on the staff side, you stay on the staff side. But the people who are incumbents have a tremendous benefit. They know exactly what the job is. They know who to talk to get reelected. It is really difficult, next to impossible, to have 7 brand new members of council. That's why 444 municipalities in Ontario, and only 2 this election, were entirely changed. So to me, this issue needs to be tackled in a strategic and organized fashion. You need to reconnect the council and the senior staff with the community. And that should be your focus, because you you need to prove yourself that you are ready to govern this municipality, and the staff are ready to continue working and doing the things that they're technically very good at. So I have a few more comments, and then we'll get to questions on the findings report. But I always say it takes a new member of council a year to understand most everything about what goes on in the municipality. And you have all sorts of things that are unusual because wherever you go, people have short forms, they have their own language, they have their own, we've talked a lot about, the policies and procedures for running a council meeting. And I know Wendell's got a report on the agenda tonight, or what was on the previous one, I think, but he calls it a cheat sheet, I think, but it's a good idea because you will learn all those things, but it takes time. And the other thing that makes it difficult for the new 7 is, if there were only 3 new members of council, somebody would have sat you so that you sat beside a returning member of council. So instead of having to ask, you could just lean over and say, what do you mean by that? And you don't have that right now. You do from your staff and clerk and Wendell and all of the staff, but that it is hard. It's hard work. It's very unusual. It is not like private sector. My family had 4 hardware stores in the city of Hamilton, and I worked there starting at age 10 to I went to high school. So I know about private sector things. Most of your counselors are from the private sector. So all of this is so new. And that's what I think, that's what I was hoping that I could help you get to a place in the work that I'm doing that gets you on to moving out and tackling all these issues and that kind of thing. So I mentioned that we had interviews with staff and with council. And so the report on tonight is the findings report. What I did though, I did something in addition to what was in my proposal, because I was concerned that I was being somewhat critical of the staff. So I actually with Lloyd, I arranged a meeting to come, and we spent 2 hours going. They didn't have a copy of the report. I wanted to tell them personally what it said. They were upset by some of the things they heard. I was hoping it might help, but I think time will tell whether I made it was a thing to do or not. So this report is in 3 sections: the input from council, the input from staff, and then a thing that I call consultants' observations. The consultants' observations are simply how I think if you switch your focus to the outside issues that are of concern to the citizens who voted you in, and together staff and council deal with those issues, you will find that those are much more challenging, yes, but rewarding as well, that you can make change, and you can change corporate cultures. You can change what a community thinks of you, of staff, and of the community in general. I've had the pleasure of driving through this community. I must admit, when I heard from the mayor, first thing I did after that was to look up where Central Elgin was. I knew it was somewhere down near St. Thomas. That's about all I knew. So that is still my goal. And I know that I received questions the last time I was here about why I got involved with the interim selection of the interim CAO. I tried to answer those questions. I try to keep working on this to get you where I think you need to be. And so I'd like to have you ask questions as we go, or I can summarize the report if you would prefer me to do that. But I want to finish on we need to have a workshop. It doesn't have to be all day. It could be 3 or 4 hours, but it really, really is a lot easier job, a job that's a lot more fun. And you can change the feelings of your community when you go out and you tackle the big issues. So the first, I will say one general thing I wanted to say about what I got from the interviews was that both council and staff see the main 3 issues facing the community as exactly the same. That's refreshing because a lot of times it's not the same. Now, they're not easy issues to deal with. The issue of the level of taxes, which actually Lloyd had given us tons of information about why and how did it happen and where did it go and all those kind of things. That's a tough one to deal with because water is a utility that takes a ton of money to be invested before you get any results out of it. But you have the staff who understand where you need to go. So that's one thing I wanted to say. The second issue was taxes. And now, mind you, I was not aware when I was doing the proposal about what was going on in St. Thomas with your land and their land. And I got the notice and heard about it the same way everybody else who doesn't live here did, which is recently that, the province has got Volkswagen coming to build some sort of a factory. So maybe that's something that it's extremely important. The senior staff are well aware of all of the issues, and I think there is a real opportunity there. But I do have a comment in the consultant's comments about, as one example, economic development is done here by the county. But in other municipalities where I've worked, and I'll use the Niagara region as an example, Niagara region do the economic development for all 12 local municipalities in Niagara, but only 5 local municipalities have their own economic development staff. Usually it's one person. And if you look at who's getting the actual growth in Niagara region, it's the 5 municipalities who have their own person who can kind of add that extra bit to companies that are coming in to look. One of the things that we did in the community I worked for was we were economic development crazy. We wanted to have more industry, more development. And we put everything we had behind it. And the thing I will say about that as an example, there is a role for council. There is a role for the mayor in economic development. It's not being the technical person. It's being the welcoming person. And I've traveled with our mayor and council in Europe and in China, and you wouldn't believe how they treat the mayor. I actually had some fun with my mayor because they want to, somebody from China, from a company, they want to talk to the mayor, but they also want to talk to with due respect, Mr. Mayor, they want to talk to the technical people too. So you have to have a team. So I know that I only met Paul Shipway twice, enjoyed meeting him, and he continually talked about his team, senior staff team. I've talked to all of the counselors, and you've been talking about your team. And if we get to have a workshop where we talk about our relationship, the things that become really important are, yes, there should be a good relationship between the 2 teams. And when people from outside come, they should appear as one team. So you can't, that's why having staff and council not having a great relationship isn't helpful. If you want to get an economic development business, You need to be front and center. You need to be able to say to people from wherever they are, we have a spot for you. This is, and come and see us. And the more council they see, the more of the mayor they see, they're going to see the technical people anyway. So that's kind of important things. So I know I highlighted just a few things there. So if you want, 2 ways to go through this is 3 sections. If you have questions on, so the first section is the work done by in the interviews with council. The second section is the staff, and then the consultant requirements. So I'm at your, whatever you want me to do. You want me to go through it, or do you want me to just take questions, Mr. Mayor, from your council?
Council, I think we can just go to questions. The document's been provided. Let me just start by saying thank you, Mr. Dobbie. I think in any new situation where we have 7 new members that have good ideas, all of us, thoughts, and have a foundation of concern for the community, it's important to have the best link with the senior staff that we have and all the staff at Central Elgin to make sure that the decisions that we make going forward. Not easy for the staff, I realize, when 7 new people come and various degrees of background in this, but I think that this opportunity, and especially a workshop, gives us the opportunity to get to know the staff, also to get to know each other a bit, and some of the concerns and challenges that we see are important in the next term. So, any questions? Councillor Halpin.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sloan. I have 5 questions here. May I just go for it?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see here. Thank you, Mr. Dobbie. Through the mayor to you, Mr. Dobbie. Before I start into my questions about the actual report, I would like to ask a foundational question about the purpose of the report so that we can compare that against the proposal that we received and the report itself. And that is that a few weeks ago, we had a member of our council make a statement to the public that this report was necessary because the staff were deliberately withholding information from us in order to impair our decision-making. And that surprised me because you first spoke with Mayor Sloan in November before we had any decision-making power and also before we had had any orientations with our staff. So it struck me as chronologically impossible. So I wondered if you could speak to, on November 14th, when you were first contacted, what the goal was at that time, what it was that we were looking to do better for the municipality.
Go ahead, Mr. Dobbie.
I will. So I had a call from the mayor, and on the 14th, I don't know whether we actually connected on the 14th or maybe the 17th or like 4 days later or whatever. And he simply said he wanted to get some help for council members. And I didn't know, as an example, that there are 7 new ones till kind of halfway through the conversation. So, so I do remember, I thought he might be, when he first talked to me, I thought he might be wanting to work on a strategic plan. But then I mentioned the word mentoring, and we talked about that. And then what I thought, as soon as he said 7 new members of council, I said, I can't come and talk to 7 new members of council only. I have to talk to the staff as well. And the reason I said that is the thing that I said when I started my remarks tonight. I really believe that the relationship between staff and council is of paramount importance to make this situation work. And I don't want to, I'm trying not to go backwards tonight. I'm trying to go forwards. But I immediately started looking at the local newspapers, and I started to refresh my memory on what was being said out there during the election. And I did notice, for example, there was, I didn't bring it with me, but there was a meeting, I think down in at the harbor, I think that's where it was. And they had 6 questions they asked each person running. And so, and wasn't just 7 of you, it was when everybody was running. And so I kind of cut out all the ones that didn't make it. And I have that because I wanted to start and see what was being said in the community by the people who are running. Why I did that was it depends how hard this job is if there were harsh words said by people who were running for council out prior to the election. And I did see 2 things that I thought would probably make this work challenging. One was the comment about, and I have it in the report, but it's staff runs the place was one comment. Second comment was wanting a 0% tax increase. Third comment was working on lowering taxes and things of that nature. So I insisted that we aren't ready to do anything other than deal with the staff council relationship. And that's why it was different than what I think the mayor wanted or thought he wanted. But remembering that he just won the election and he was looking for somebody that had some experience in working in a municipality. And I said, you got to bring people together. You have to turn the inside issues to outside issues to show the community that elected you that you're going to tackle all of these. And you for sure, you won't achieve everything you want to do in your first 4 years.
Well, we can try. Thank you, Mr. Dobbie. Did you want to follow up, please?
Thank you. Yes, I've got 3 more here right now. Through you to Mr. Dobbie, I do notice in your report that you explained that you would have preferred if the staff had worked harder to educate us on big ticket projects such as Front Street. I wasn't sure how to receive that because I know that you did interviews with all of the staff and they did explain quite a lot to you about their side of things. And at the time of our orientation, the staff did offer that past councils have always had a bus tour of major projects and had a chance to see things firsthand and have additional education on those issues. And our council declined to have that. And my impression from the thoroughness of these interviews is that you must have known that already. So it looks like staff offered to help and council refused. And then the report came back and said that staff hadn't helped us enough. So could you please explain that conclusion?
Sure.
Mr. Dobbie.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the councillor. So staff did tell us that. They told us that they had reached out to you, that if you had questions, come in, you on and on. I know they said that, but what I was taken aback in the staff were angry in their interviews, some of them. And I think they were angry at some of the comments that were made by some councillors, particularly on the issue of that, staff never wants to hear things like the staff run the place, number 1, and number 2, some of them need to go. Now, if that's what was said, then I've lived through that one myself. So I just didn't. You need to change. I was trying to convince staff that you need to change your approach to the new council, and you need to prove that you're willing to let them do their job. They let you do your job, and you work these things forward. And I just, to be honest, the anger that came from some staff, which I've never seen before. I've worked for 65 municipalities throughout Ontario, and I've never interviewed staff who was angry as this staff. That's the only thing I found, by the way, I had any concern with, because they're all technically sound. And I've said that in the reports, they all know what they're doing. But there's a different way to treat 7 brand new members of council. And now our interviews were confidential. And the only thing that brought forward is things where there was a majority of council or staff said something. And that we stuck directly to that. But I did have council members say to me that they were intimidated by coming into the building. I have no idea. I didn't go into it much further. It simply to me was, this is, and that's why I'm saying and saying again and again tonight, this is the time tonight to drop the internal issues and go out and handle the big ones, because this is, I've learned, this is a wonderful community. It's got lots going for it. You have opportunity to staring you right in the face. And all we got to do is get a good staff council relations and move forward. And anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbie. Could we go to your next question, please? Thank you, Councillor Halpin.
Thank you. 2 more. Through you, Mayor Sloan, to Mr. Dobbie. I know that you did say that you worked very hard to stick to, if a majority of council brought a matter forward, it was in the report. And if a majority did not, it wasn't. You and I had a phone call after we received an email copy of the report and did a bit of a debrief about it. And at that time, you told me that there were some things that I had brought forward that were not on the report because I was not in the majority, which I do accept, but also that there were things that were not in the report because you felt that my technical knowledge and my understanding of the issues was too significant for me to qualify as a new member of council, and that my husband had presumably helped me to understand these things and given me a leg up on that. And so I would like to understand, and you don't need to give names and identify individuals, I know this is all confidential, but how many people had information withheld from this report for reasons other than that they were the majority, and what were those reasons?
It's
Mr.
only
Dobbie.
from majority reasons.
Thank you. Follow up, please.
Thank you. Yes, supplemental. So you specifically said to me that there were some issues where it was because of majority and some issues where you felt that it was unfair because I was not a new councillor. So that's why I'm asking you what other criteria may have been used to make decisions about what goes into a report and what does not.
I talked to every member of council, most of them multiple times. I try to be as open and frank and honest as I can. And I think I know what you can do as a group. Like, I think you're sitting on an opportunity that's tremendous. So I try to get people more interested. You, Councillor Halpin, either when you and I spoke, you had a much deeper knowledge of the policies, procedures, all that kind of thing. I don't recall putting anything in this report, though, that wasn't a majority opinion. So I talked to you in a different way because I knew you understood more than the other councillors did. They asked me entirely different questions than you did. And that I try to be as open and honest as I can. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you. And you have another question, Councillor Halpin? And I
Thank
think we
you.
have one other.
Yes, one more and then we're done. So through you to Mr. Dobbie, this report did come to us 2 months ago by email, and we've been unable to discuss it until now because there were a series of attempts to understand whether procedurally we could keep this in a way where the stakeholders, the public, didn't have access to watch us receive this report. And that was even after confirmation from the Integrity Commissioner that would not be acceptable. So I know that as a CIO, you've worked with Integrity Commissioners before, and there is nobody specifically named in this report individually. Were there reasons strategically that you felt that this was best done privately?
The reasons that I thought the workshop or training idea would be more appropriate was that's what most communities are using. And so I'm doing a strategic plan with Elliott Lake it takes 4 meetings. 2 of them are going to be work training sessions. The other 2 are going to be like this, be open. You are correct that, and I did check with, at a retirement party with Burlington's clerk, and she agreed that more and more municipalities are leaning towards this type of a meeting rather than the workshop one. The only difference to me, why Elliott Lake chose 2+2, the counselors, and there's 5 of them of the 6 who are new. It's hard as a new counselor to stick your hand up in a public meeting and ask a question that you don't really know the answer of, and maybe you're not even sure what the question is. So I always like to at least have 1 or 2 workshop kind of training and then go to the public. Here, Lauren and Paul and a lawyer convinced me that the best way to do it for this community was public meetings. And as soon as they said that, I said, well, let's have it that way.
Thank you. Supplemental, Counselor Halpin, then we're moving on.
Thank you. Yes, I do have a supplemental question. It was a little over a week after you spoke with the Integrity Commissioner and Mr. Shipway that you attempted to book a meeting for us on Zoom, which was intended to be a closed training session. So I wouldn't say that it's true that this was done immediately as a public matter as soon as the Integrity Commissioner said that. What made you decide to give it that one last effort?
I still thought that one meeting, because this meeting is not the workshop, right? This meeting is just going through the report. My preference still would have been to go through the report in a workshop session. That's the only reason I tried that, because I think there are people members of council, even members of council who've been here a while, that may not ask a question tonight, but maybe they'll phone me and ask it after. And if they do that, I guess that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Noble.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to personally thank you for hiring Tim and having the insight at the very beginning with us being a brand new staff, brand new council. It only makes sense that with what we heard during the campaign, the election process from our community, it only makes sense that there would be some challenges with all of us being elected and none of the past council being elected, that we would have some challenges that way. So it makes sense that you would reach out to Tim and do that. And I thank Tim for his diligence in that. As far as some of the other questions, I don't feel welcome in the office. My key doesn't work. I have to have permission to go in. My second time I walked in, I wasn't welcomed. So some of the stuff that Tim said is stuff that came from me. I'll own it. I would have been happy to have more training. I would have been happy to do a ride along and see a lot of the projects that have come up that we have been asked to vote on, that we have voted down because we didn't understand them and we weren't given that opportunity. I believe that Tim trying to give us this workshop was the best thing for the benefit of Central Elgin community. It's not a something where it's supposed to be kept in a secret. It was a thing so that we could all work together with council, with Mayor Sloan, through Tim Dobbie, to staff, and anybody that's done any kind of strategic planning or sales training or a lot of other in-group training would understand that that's not something you would want to do with somebody holding a camera, and you just wouldn't feel comfortable at that level. But again, thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and a seconder for accepting this report as information, please? Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Watson. Oh, Councillor, pardon me. Councillor Halpin, pardon me. I was thinking of something else.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sloan. Instead of just receiving it for information, would the people who've made that motion be open to moving to receive for information and to request the staff plan that bus field trip for us.
Mr. Graves, would you like to comment, please? Thank you, Councilor Allen.
Thank you. If I may, you'll know from the last council meeting we had, we are in the process of organizing a half day, which will include a bus trip and some other educational opportunities. And we want to continue that series. We've just got to lock in that date for sure. But I think just so that we don't lose sight of it, I think if I'm hearing correctly, that at some point in time, there'll be direction to find a appropriate time for the workshop. And perhaps that's something that if that was part of that we be directed to find an appropriate time for a workshop, I think that would be helpful, as Mr. Dobbie's recommended.
Thank you, Councilor Halpin. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mr. Dobbie. Deputy Mayor Noble, pardon me. Oh, can we, I think we're going to continue. Are you? Sorry. If we could move now to correspondence, please. Item number 1 on our correspondence is a letter from Colleen Burns, Forever Wild Rehabilitation, Authorized Wildlife Custodian, requesting council consideration of a bylaw to restrict the feeding of wildlife. I'll note Ms. Burns is in the chamber this evening. She's a committed wildlife advocate who I have called on occasion once when being accosted by a rabid raccoon. She was very good and does a lot of service in our communities for various people when they're dealing with wildlife. The letter this evening deals with a bylaw to restrict the feeding of wildlife. Council, I know that we have urban, we have rural, we have different areas. This is something that obviously will require a great amount of consideration. But before we go forward, I just wondered if any of the council have any comments at this time. Thank you. Councillor Halpin.
Thank you. Through Mayor Sloan, I did communicate a little bit with Ms. Burns after she sent that letter. She had some really helpful suggestions, including she did send to me copies of London and St. Thomas's bylaws about feeding of nuisance animals. And there was some good writing in there where it specifically exempted certain things like live trapping and agricultural and so forth. So I don't think we'll have to reinvent the wheel on this. I think this is something where we could absolutely look at what's already drafted out there.
Comments, questions, council? Perhaps we could ask Mr. Graves, we could ask staff to take a look at this. Can I ask for your thoughts and input, please?
I believe the deputy clerk has a motion prepared that would do just that, direct the correspondence to administration, and then we'll take a look at examples and come back and report to staff or council.
And I'll need a mover and a seconder. If I may have a mover and seconder, Councillor Halpin, Deputy Councillor Connors.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Councillor Connors, that council direct that the letter from Colleen Burns be referred to administration and request that they report back to council.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Look forward to reporting back to you, Ms. Burns, and thank you for your engagement. Item number 2, special events report, Kettle Creek Food Truck Festival. I had a question myself for the deputy mayor here. Where is this?
Dan Patterson.
Oh, because it doesn't say, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, okay, so it's at Dan Patterson.
They had it last year. It was very successful, very well attended. Sold out of all their food.
Thank you. Council have any questions? Mover and a seconder. Councillor Connors and Councillor Bachman.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Councillor Bachman, that report SE 623 regarding the special events application Kettle Creek Food Truck Festival be received for information, and that council approve the special events permit for the Kettle Creek Food Truck Festival event to be held on June 17th, 2023 between 11 o'clock a.m. and 7 o'clock p.m., subject to the following recommended conditions. The organizers complying with the special events policy as adopted by council. Liability insurance being provided by the organizers of the event in the amount of $5 million, naming the County of Elgin and Municipality of Central Elgin as co-insured and held harmless. The final schedule and location of the event being approved by the Director of Infrastructure and Community Services. Council approval of refreshment vehicles for the event as per bylaw 2711, section 2 exemptions. Refreshment vehicles being inspected by the Director of Fire Services and the finalized list of refreshment vehicles being submitted to the communications specialist.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Special events report 07.23, Belmont Canada Day celebration. Questions or comments from council? Pretty straightforward. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bachman as a Belmont resident, Councillor Halpin.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Councillor Halpin, that report SE 723 regarding special events application Belmont Canada Day celebration be received for information, and that council approve the special events permit for the Belmont Canada Day celebration event to be held on July 1st, 2023 between 9:00 a.m. and 10:30 p.m., subject to the following recommended conditions. The organizers complying with the special events policy as adopted by council, liability insurance being provided by the organizers of the event in the amount of $5 million, naming the County of Elgin and the Municipality of Central Elgin as co-insured and held harmless. The final schedule and location of the event being approved by the Director of Infrastructure and Community Services, and road closure approval from the County of Elgin.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Special events report 08.23, London Canine Association show. And again, I have the question, where is it being held? If I'm missing these, Councillor Noble or Deputy Mayor Noble, I apologize, but I did not see the location.
Same spot. And I'm looking forward to this event.
Very good. Oh, mover and a seconder, sorry. Deputy Mayor Noble, Councillor Halpin, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Halpin, that report SE 823 regarding special events application London Canine Association Inc. Dog Show be received for information, and that council approve the special events permit for the London Canine Association Inc. Dog Show event to be held on July 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, 2023 between 8:00 a.m. and 5:00 p.m., subject to the following recommended conditions. The organizers complying with the special events policy as adopted by council, the final schedule and location of the event being approved by the Director of Infrastructure and Community Services, and the organizers obtaining a temporary tent permit per the Municipality of Central Elgin Building Department.
All those in favor? Opposed? So carried. 0923, special events report, Vintage Markets. Any comment to special committee? Sorry, Deputy Mayor Noble. Just sorry to put you on the spot. Vintage Markets, any questions or any comments on where this is?
It's the Union Sports Club
Thank you.
on number 4.
Mover in a second, or any questions or comments on it? Mover in a seconder. Councillor Halpin, Councillor Bachman.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Councillor Bachman, that report SE 923 regarding special events application Vintage Markets be received for information, and that council approve the special events permit for the Vintage Markets event to be held on June 4th, July 9th, and August 6th, 2023 between 10:00 a.m. and 7:00 p.m., subject to the following recommended conditions. The organizers complying with the special events policy as adopted by council, liability insurance being provided by the organizers of the event in the amount of $5 million, naming the County of Elgin and Municipality of Central Elgin as co-insured and held harmless. The final schedule and location of the event being approved by the Director of Infrastructure and Community Services. Council approval of refreshment vehicles for the event as per bylaw 2711, section 2 exemptions. Refreshment vehicles being inspected by the Director of Fire Services, and the finalized list of refreshment vehicles being submitted to the communications specialist.
Thank you. All those in favor, please. Opposed? Carried. Moving along, received for information. We have correspondence from the County of Elgin. Elgin County Council highlights a letter from Robert Weir, a letter from the Treasury Board Secretariat, a letter from Regional Senior Justice Ontario Court of Justice, and correspondence from Janine Roy, Regional Senior Justice West Region with the set fine order respecting Central Elgin and our licensing. Any questions or comments from council on any of that information? If I could get a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Noble, Councillor Connors.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Connors, that correspondence items number 1 through 5 be received as information and filed.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving through to reports, seeing nothing from the Central Elgin Planning Office. Moving to the Chief Administrative Officer, CAO 1123 Municipal Heritage Committee. Mr. Graves, please.
Thank you, Worship. Council will be aware from the report that there is a Municipal Heritage Committee in play for the municipality, and under the terms of reference, there's a slot for one council member to be appointed to that. That hasn't not been done yet, so it's recommended that council select someone for that appointment.
Thank you. I have a question, please. How often does the committee meet?
I believe they meet monthly.
And has there been in the past, there's been a council member that's participated? Sorry. Pardon me.
I think past councils have always had somebody appointed. That's reading the terms of reference for the committee.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Grace. Councillor Bachman, please. Thank you. Councillor Halpin has been nominated by Councillor Graham. Or sorry, Councillor Halpin is being nominated by Councillor. Yes, Councillor Bachman is nominating Councillor Halpin. I was close. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Noble.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Graham as well.
Deputy Mayor Noble is suggesting Councillor Graham. That I got right. Any other questions or comments from the floor, please? Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sloan. I'm happy for us to start by getting this off the table and just resolving, making sure that a councillor is appointed one way or another. But after that is done, could we also talk about what other committees still haven't had appointments? I know the Environmental Committee is still waiting.
Good question, Councillor Halpin. I brought that up with Mr. Graves. He's planning on having the Environment Committee, I believe, at the next meeting. If that's okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And what's the direction, sorry, for the other piece? We have a nomination for two separate people. What's the, Mr. Graves?
Unless there's any further, you may start by asking each of the members if they're interested in sitting on the committee, and then you would just, Councillor Halpin was, her name was first, you could do a vote on that, there's a majority, and then you go to Councillor Graham.
Is that the will of council? Councillor Halpin, will you let your name stand?
Yes, I will. I have been attending the meetings as a guest at this time because I knew that they hoped there would be interest from council in what they're doing. And I thought it was a good way of making sure that we know what's going on. I'm also going to be modeling in their fashion show in June. So if anyone has not bought tickets and would like to, that's still an option.
Thank you. Do I have Councillor Graham speak, or do I just?
Yeah, I would ask Councillor Graham.
Councillor Graham, would you like to speak?
I accept that nomination from Deputy Mayor Noble.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Graves, I'm not quite as familiar on the voting process.
Yeah, you could ask for a show of hands at this point, then we'll lock down with the resolution once you have the selected candidate.
Is that the will of council? Is that okay? Okay, Councillor Graham or Councillor Halpin, your name was put forward first. I ask council, all those in favor of Councillor Graham on the Heritage Committee. Sorry. It's back to that earlier hearing. That's my mind is with, we had a, yeah, so apologies, council. As she is first named, Councillor Halpin has let her name stand. Could I ask all those who are in favor of Councillor Halpin being on the Heritage Committee to please say so. Thank you. Councillor Graham has put her name forward to be on the Heritage Committee. Could I ask for all the members of council that would support Council or Graham's candidacy? Councillor Graham is our appointee to the Municipal Heritage Committee. I thank you both. I'll need a mover and a seconder. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Graham? Councillor Connors, please.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Connors, that report CAO 1123 regarding the Municipal Heritage Committee be received for information, and that council appoint Councillor Graham to the Municipal Heritage Committee.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next report we have is from the Director of Infrastructure and Community Services, one ICS 1023, the bond drain petition, please. Council, questions or comments? Mr. Brooks, you're on remotely. Did you wish to speak to this, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report is to appoint Spreet and Associates to prepare a report under the Ontario Drainage Act. The purpose of this report is the County of Elgin currently has a drainage outlet which holds no status under the Drainage Act, nor does it have any registered easements on it. So preparing a report through the Drainage Act will provide legal status to this drainage outlet.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Mover and seconder, Councillor Halpin and Councillor Watson, please.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Councillor Watson, that report ICS 1023 regarding the bond drain petition be received for information, and that council appoint Brandon Widner, PNG of Spreet Associates Limited, to prepare a report under Section 4 of the Drainage Act for a new branch of the bond drain.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. ICS 1123, Edward Street Stairs update. Mr. Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief update on the Edward Street Stairs project. Council directed staff to find a consultant to prepare the design of the stairs, which staff have done. MTE was a successful consultant on the project. Since being awarded the project, MTE has completed the geotechnical investigation, survey work, and has provided a concept plan, which is attached to this report, showing a rendered image of what the staircase would look like. Staff would anticipate that this work will be completed by the end of May. Included in the proposal to MTE consultants was to have them come before council to present the design of the stairs for council comment. And we would expect that MTE should be in a position to come in front of council to present their design at one of the June meetings. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. I have a question, and I don't know if I read the legend wrong, but can you tell me what the width of the stairs are in this? Is that a fair question? Is that, or is this just the design concept?
It is the design concept right now. Going off of memory, I believe the stairs were roughly 3 meters wide.
Thank you. Thank you. Council, any more questions?
They may have been 1.8 meters. It was one. I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
That's okay. That's okay, Mr. Brooks. I think we had a gasp in the audience about the width, and I apologize. So thank you, Mr. Brooks. Are there any other questions or comments from the council on this? Look forward to hearing back from you, Mr. Brooks, and appreciate your attention to this matter. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Watson, Councillor Connors.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Connors, that report ICS 1123 regarding the Edward Street Stairs update be received for information.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Item number 3, ICS 1223, TVDSB drain petition for Belmont. Questions or comments from councillors, or any comments from you, Mr. Brooks, please? Please go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. So The purpose of this drain report would be to provide the Thames Valley District School Board a temporary outlet in order to move forward with the construction of the school in Belmont. The municipal drain would likely be temporary in nature until phase 6 of the Craigholm subdivision was developed, but moving this forward would allow the school to get underway.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Bachman, Councillor Halpin.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Councillor Halpin, that report ICS 1223 regarding the Thames Valley District School Board drain petition for Belmont be received for information, and that council appoint Brandon Widner, P.Eng. of Spreet Associates Limited to prepare a report under Section 4 of the Drainage Act for a new municipal drain for the Thames Valley District School Board property in Belmont on 7th Avenue.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Director of Fire Rescue Services, Fire Chief. Thank you, folks, for coming out this evening. Appreciate your time. Director of Fire Services, we have our monthly alarm activities report. Any questions before I ask for a mover and a seconder, folks? If I may, a mover and a seconder. Councillor Bach, Councillor Halpin, Councillor Connors.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Councillor Connors, that report FS 523 regarding monthly alarm activities report, April 2023, be received for information.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Director of Asset Management and Development Services, April bylaw report. Any questions or comments from staff, or for any questions or comments for staff from council, please? Seeing none, if I could get a mover and a seconder. Councillor Bachman, Councillor Halpin.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Councillor Halpin, that report AMDS 2523 regarding the April 2023 monthly bylaw report be received for information.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. April 2023 building report, AMDS 2623. Oh, Councillor Halpin, question? Oh, move it. Councillor Halpin will move. Deputy Mayor Noble will second.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that report AMDS 2623 regarding the April 2023 monthly building report be received for information.
All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Now we're into bylaws. If I could get a mover in a sec. First of all, any questions on the bylaws? Councillor Halpin, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sloan, could I ask that we divide Schedule B?
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing it to our attention, Councillor Halpin. Mr. Graves? Ms. Leach? I need a mover and a seconder for Schedule B. Voting to divide. I thought we were voting to divide it, Ms. Leach or Mr. Graves?
If I may,
Please.
for clarification, Schedule B is the general government amount itself, which I believe you had declared a conflict on. So we're just dealing with that piece of the bylaw right now, just Schedule B, okay? Yeah.
So a move, okay, Councillor Halpin. So a mover and a seconder for bylaw 2787, please. Councillor Bachman, Deputy Mayor Noble.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that Schedule B of bylaw 2787 regarding general government be read a first and second time.
All those in favor? Do I note for the record that Councillor Halpin and I are not participating?
We've got,
Oh, pardon me. Opposed? Carried.
if I may, your worship,
Yes,
the next schedule that's come up is Schedule C, which is the fire one, which I believe you had declared a conflict on. So Deputy Mayor should handle the proceedings relating to the receipt of Schedule C, and I'll keep that part clean. Right.
We need to do a third time and finally pass Schedule B
Okay,
2787.
yeah.
If I may, please, a mover and a seconder for that file. Councillor Graham, Councillor Connors.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Graham, seconded by Counselor Connors, that Schedule B of Bylaw 2787 regarding general government be read a third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. No, Deputy Mayor, want to assume the chair?
That's fine.
Okay, sorry. Virtual, sorry.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for Schedule C? Counselor Halpin, Counselor Graham. And all those in favor? No? Oh,
Chair Noble, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Halpin, seconded by Counselor Graham, that Schedule C of Bylaw 2787 regarding the fire department be read a first and second time.
all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the third reading of Schedule C? Counselor Watson, Counselor Connors.
Chair Noble, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Watson, seconded by Counselor Connors, that Schedule C of Bylaw 2787 regarding the fire department be read a third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. Now we need a mover and a seconder for bylaws 2787, including schedules A, D. I get a mover and seconder, Counselor Bachman and Counselor Watson. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Bachman, seconded by Counselor Watson, that Bylaw 2787, including Schedules A and D, be read a first and second time.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mover and a seconder for the third reading of the bylaw, please. If I get a mover and a seconder for the third reading, Deputy Mayor Noble and Council Connors, please.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Counselor Connors, that Bylaw 2787, including Schedules A and D, be read a third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mr. Graves, please.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to take a moment just for comment and, given that this is the first time the council has gone through this budget, I think now there's a kind of a administrative template. If life stays the same for everybody and the same conflicts exist for next year, then the setup will be the same. So it'll be a blink of an eye when you're sitting here again and you're dealing with Schedule B and Schedule C and all those kinds of things, but that's great. But now that template is set relating to the relationships in this council, and you'll be able to move forward in subsequent years.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. Bylaw 2789, zoning for 7716 Yarmouth Center Road. Any questions or comments? And bylaw 2792 for the Port Stanley Harbor dredging contract. They're together. Is that supposed to be? Okay, thank you. If I could get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Counselor Halpin. Counselor Bachman, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Halpin, seconded by Counselor Bachman, that Bylaw 2789 and 2792 be read a first and second time.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And a mover and a seconder for the third time and final passing, please. Counselor, I need a mover and seconder, Counselor Connors and Counselor Halpin. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Connors, seconded by Counselor Halpin, that Bylaw 2789 and 2792 be read a third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. If I could get a a mover and a seconder that we go into closed session, please. But beforehand, if we could have a mover and a seconder that we go into closed session, please. Councillor Halpin and Councillor Connors.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Councillor Connors, that council proceed into closed session at 8:19 PM in order to address a matter pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Welcome back. If I could get a mover and a seconder to adjourn the closed session and return to open session, please. Councillor Connors and Deputy Mayor Noble.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, the council adjourn from closed session and return to open session at 8:54 PM.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. If I could get a mover and a seconder for the Main Street Road allowance, please. Deputy Mayor Noble. Councillor Graham.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Graham, that closed session item CS2 regarding Main Street Road allowance be received for information and that staff proceed as directed by council.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. CS3, CAO Clerk Temporary Appointment. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Connors, Councillor Halpin, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Councillor Halpin, that closed session item CS3 regarding the CAO Clerk Temporary Appointment be received for information, and that council appoint Lloyd Perrin as CAO Clerk for the temporary period between May 26, 2023 and June 11th, 2023.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Perrin. Next, we're moving to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, bylaw 2790. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Halpin. Councillor or Deputy Mayor Noble.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that bylaw 2790 be read a first and second time.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. If I could get a mover and a seconder for the third and final passage, Councillor Bachman, Councillor Connor.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Councillor Connors, that bylaw 2790 be read a third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mr. Graves, you wanted to talk about a couple of scheduling items that we have. I think we've seen some emails. I just wanted to pass it to you for comments, please.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to mention, and I know council's aware of some of these things. There's a number of business items coming up over the next several weeks that we're going to need to bring council together to talk about. I'm going to list them and then you'll get a sense of what they are. Some of them heard. First is to arrange a workshop with Mr. Dobbie to come. That's going to be a 2 or 3 hour session that we need to do. We're trying to schedule an education session and a tour for May the 18th. It doesn't look like that date is going to work. So we're going to have to look at a different date for that. And we've got to come up with that. We have a town hall meeting on June the 8th coming up. And we know that there are other town hall meetings to be scheduled. So we'll need to look and see when those can be scheduled. I have been speaking with the regional director of the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Mr. Ian Kerr, and he has offered to come over and to speak to council. That ministry represents 141 municipalities across southwestern Ontario, and they have some standard information that I think would be helpful for council to glean from them in terms of the work they do and some assistance they can provide. So we need to find a time to fit Mr. Kerr in. That would be between 1 and 2 hours. And then finally, over the course of the next few weeks, as the process unfolds relating to the CAO candidates in that whole application process, there will be some time required. I think we're going to try and stick within the confines of normal council meeting dates for that process as much as we can, but just to let you know, that's on the radar screen as well. So I say all of that because I think in terms of the seating, I'll assign a staff member to reach out, and we'll try and come up with some dates that work for everybody on these things over the next day or so. But it is going to take a few hours of time. So
Just want to,
Go ahead, sir.
just want to indicate that May 23, 24, 25, I'm on town.
Okay. Would it also be fair to rank in a bit of, if I may, the will of council or the understanding of council if there's levels of import? So is the education session something that could be done in the summer? I think the CAO hiring is probably number one. Number two, is it to see Mr. Kerr? Is that before a meeting? Just some, I'd like to put that out there for your consideration. What are the thoughts of council on those issues? Councillor Bachman, please.
Personally, I'd like to see the Dobbie issue resolved and put to bed. And then I agree, and CAO and after that, but yeah, we've got the report. We've been dealing with this for 6 months now. I just like it put to bed.
Thank you, Councillor Bachman. So we've got a couple of priorities. Was there any sort of a general consensus that maybe, because as we look at May and people going away and we look at June, it's getting very busy. Is there any interest in the education session that you suggested? And I'm not, if people want it in June, that's fine. I just wondered if it was something when there was more time in the summer, but maybe people have less time. Thoughts are welcome, please. Councillor Connors.
Yes, I'd like the information center. I'd like to go down to Front Street. I'd like to do the workshops. I'd like to do all those things, but prioritizing them would be best for me.
Okay.
Because I have a lot going on this month, so.
Okay.
If we push it into June or July, I'm good with that.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Noble.
Not to muddy the waters, just if Mr. Graves has the ear of the housing minister, that might be kind of beneficial too, to schedule in while we have Mr. Graves.
Thank you, sir.
If for what it's worth from my side, I think it would be beneficial to have the municipal affairs here. If we can schedule that just prior to Mr. Dobbie coming, because he provides a good context for the things I think that Mr. Dobbie will talk about, I think, at his forum as well. And we can keep that to an hour or so. Maybe we can work it in with something else. But so if we did that, and obviously I think CAO recruitment is sort of top of the pile because that process is underway, and we'll work on the municipal affairs, and then we'll work on the Dobbie workshop. And then we'll see what we can fit in the other educational workshops that will be important, and see what we can get done by the end of June.
Great. Thank you. Is that okay with everyone? Thank you very much. Well, thank you everyone for your time. Those joining at home, those joining online. If I could ask for a mover and a seconder for adjournment, please. Deputy Mayor Noble and Councillor Halpin.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Halpin, that the regular meeting of council dated Monday, May 8th, 2023 be adjourned at 9:02 p.m. and that the next planning regular meeting of council be scheduled for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at 5:00 p.m.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Meeting is adjourned.